Welcome to If I Only Had 10 Minutes. I'm Jane Randall, one of the partners in Comms Collective, and I'm here with Bob Feldman. Bob, tell
Hey,
everybody who
Jane.
you are. Tell everybody who you are. They don't know who you are.
Who am I? Let's see. I am the co-founder of FHS Capital Partners, an investment firm in the marketing communication space.
Recently
I'm
expanded. You
recently
recently
expanded.
expanded.
Three new partners. Read all about it in Axios and other media and on our website. And also the founder and I guess the director who runs the Dialogue Project at Duke University, which is an initiative that I started several years ago that's all about what role business can play in helping to reduce polarization in this country. We started several years ago. You can see the positive impact we've been having.
No, it's so important. It's so important. I remember when you started, everyone said thank you because it's
Yeah.
so important.
I mean, I think we're making progress. We deal with companies that, I guess what I could tell you is as bad as it is, it could have been worse. So
Correct. Exactly.
we're trying.
Exactly.
We're trying.
All right, let's launch in. Let's start with an AI question. Where do you draw the line between AI as a helpful assistant and AI as a risk to your voice or brand?
Oof. I mean, that's a tough question. I mean, I think to me the real issue or draw the line around AI is almost invariably one of ethics. When it comes to your voice and your brand, I'm kind of less concerned about that in the sense that I think you could do this today. Forget about, AI tools down the road.
Yeah,
Take a lot of the content from your company or from your brand, the voice, whether it's in your marketing materials,
right,
speeches your executives have given, and so forth, and kind of teach whatever platform you use the voice of the company and use AI to your benefit. So
right.
I don't think it's a red line or some problem necessarily when it comes to voice of brand. I think it becomes much more of an issue when you start getting into ethics, legality, and kind of appropriateness of the
Right,
use of.
right. No, I agree. A lot of people don't have policies, and it just reminds me very much of when social media first started, and it was sort of the Wild West. That's what it makes me think
Yeah.
of. Um,
Well, I don't know if you saw it. Dan Schulman was. We're doing this during the Davos, and Richard Edelman, talked about the this year's trust barometer, and Dan Schulman from Verizon was talking about it, and he's very very sober view on the impact of AI. Not that it's not going to create all sorts of positives, but it's
right.
going to displace a lot of jobs, lots of issues, lots of concerns. So I think what we're seeing now is, I mean, it's barely scratching the
Yeah,
surface of what we're going to see, and not that long, like, within 3 years. This
yeah,
is not a 10, 20-year arc.
right. I know. It, yes, agreed. What's the hardest communications decision you've ever had to advise a leader on?
Hmm. So, a number of years ago, I was pretty close to, as an advisor to the CEO of a publicly traded, very large financial services company. And we found out that this financial service company is a credit card company. And we found out that one night someone had stolen 20 laptops from a highly secure area in the building.
Okay.
And we weren't sure if this person just stole laptops or was going after, highly confidential data. Just
Right.
didn't know that.
Right.
And if we waited to find that out, it might be too late. In other words, if you start seeing massive
Right.
fraud in the marketplace, you've waited too long because now you're reacting. On the other hand, preempting that and getting word out that there's been this massive theft
Yep.
to, in this case, banks, and banks would need in turn to notify their millions of members
Right.
and potentially replace all their cards, potentially for no reason at all. Right? I mean, that's kind of the conundrum there, right? It's like you
That's a
want to get
conundrum.
out. Everybody always says get out in front, but getting out in front has its consequences. And navigating that, threading that needle was one of the hardest things I ever helped. It wasn't just me doing it, but working with the CEO and some other folks doing it. And I won't bore you with all the details, but we did get out in front enough that we notified the banks. We notified actually local press
Smart.
because we were concerned the press. We were trying to keep this a local story,
Yeah.
and then it was a theft. And if it became anything more, we would kind of
Sure.
be all over it. In any case, our concern was if the press starts to smell blood and you're not being really candid and transparent, you're really dead.
Yeah.
So I think we threaded the needle by and large pretty well. And it turned out we were fortuitous. The guy was just stealing laptops. He had
Oh,
no
wow.
idea. He had no idea what he had.
Wow. Wow.
But the situation for 24 hours was seriously high stakes.
I can't imagine, but it's actually a really good lesson of stop and take a beat to the degree that you can take a beat and really think through what you're
Yeah.
looking at. Because
I think the challenge in crisis is so often people tell you, you got to get out in front. And that's true. And that sounds so obvious and it sounds easy. It's very often
no,
not easy because you've got to make the judgment that everybody, or at least every client I've ever worked with, their bias is this may not be so bad. I mean, they're praying whatever the problem is, God
Right.
willing, it's not going to get a lot worse.
right,
To get out in front of the story, you have to presume it's going to get worse, and you got to go past that.
right, right.
Okay, so doing that without any assurance that you really need to do it is a very tough calibration. It's really, really hard. So,
No, it's really
yeah.
hard. How would you explain the value of a fractional communications person to someone who was not familiar with the concept?
I would think that the large majority of people, of executives, of business leaders, maybe even CEOs, who would find fractional leaders appealing are, I don't know that I'm right about this, are likely in companies that may not be able to afford kind of best in class talent, because maybe they're mid-sized companies and they're not, Fortune 20, and so they can't afford to load you up on salary and bonus and
Right.
stock and yada yada yada. But I think if I was the CEO of a mid-sized company, and I may not even have, in our case, say communications, I may not even have a dedicated communications. It may exist within marketing and have some people
Right.
doing it, but it may not be quite as sophisticated a organizational structure as a much larger company might have. To me, the appeal of having really smart, sophisticated communications executives provide me with strategic guidance, planning for the firm and so forth, to leave the execution to other people and so forth, but to tap that kind of talent, that's all value add. And if I could
Right.
do that without having to pay, the full-time cost of what it would be to attract some of these people, I would think would be really appealing. So to me, the value proposition is clear, but getting to that audience and kind of making that case and making it kind of a comfortable
Right.
purchase, if you will, that's hard stuff.
I'm going to ask you one other question, and then we'll get to our final question. What's one movie or TV show that you never turn off if you come across it on TV?
Well, let's see, movies. I'll start with movies. Okay, I'll give you two, and they are about as far apart as you could possibly imagine. So the first one, for you laugh, is Back to School. Was
I love
Ronnie-
that movie. Are you kidding? It's a great movie.
Everybody loves that movie. It's a riot. So I mean,
It's a great movie.
that's hysterical. I think it's a really, really funny movie. And the other one is Citizen Kane, which
Those are diametrically opposed.
yeah, I watched Citizen Kane years ago, first time, along with I think it was a Roger Ebert analysis of almost like a frame by frame thing. I was on a plane. I don't know where the hell it was going. It's probably Europe. So it was a long flight. So I watched the movie. I forget how long the movie is. I think it's close to 3 hours. And then on top of that was the analysis. I mean, it took up pretty much the whole flight. Super interesting, incredibly impressive. A lot of people don't remember that Orson Welles not only starred in it, but he co-wrote it, he directed it, he produced it. It was all about William Randolph Hearst and all this. I mean, just an amazing movie and super innovative for its time. So there you go. There are two completely crazy different
I
movies.
love that. I think that's great. All right. Our last question. Signature question. If you had an extra 10 minutes in your day, what would you do with it?
What would I do with it? If I had 10 minutes
You
more,
can't play golf. I mean, you can't play a whole game of golf. So,
I could take a lesson. And believe me, I need the lesson. What would I do with 10 minutes? Jesus, I mean, that's a good, well, that's just not that much time. What would I do with 10 minutes? Uh, I don't know. I'd have a glass of wine with my wife.
that's perfect. Honestly, I knew you were going to say something with Susie, and I think that's perfect.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
interesting if I aggregate what people say, where they
Yeah.
go, and most of them go in sort of very similar directions. So
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. You give me a few hours, I might do something else. But
Yeah, I don't have 2 hours. You only had 10 minutes. All right, Bob. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Jane, my pleasure. Good seeing you.
You too.